Hello, Professor. This is Huang Shang. I'm doing assignment number 7, which is the controversial topic. So the topic I choose is, should we use animals for scientific research? So I believe most of us have seen the statue of a mouse, and I believe most likely it's in the Disneyland. But have you ever seen the mouse statue in Russian Novosibirsk near the Institute of Cytology and Genetics? Well, I have attached this picture with the outlines. So as you can see there, this statue is called the mouse knitting the DNA. This is actually a monument built by the scientists and the staffs in this institute I mentioned before, in order to honor the lab animals for their sacrifices to science. Well, I believe most of us have been aware of that so many animals are used by people in experiments. Therefore, a major controversy of using animals in the experiments study have risen from the past 10 years. So the question we are going to discuss today is that, should we use animals for scientific research? So there are several facts that we need to know before we can get the conclusion of this, get the answer of these questions. So the first is that, why we use animals in lab for scientific research? Well, I think the reason is very easy to understand, because it can lessen human sufferings, it can save lives, and improve our scientific understanding. So, how many animal lives were sacrificed in lab research every year in order to improve our scientific understanding? Well, the number is actually enormous. Just in European Union, according to the 2013 7th report from the Commission to the Council and the European Parliament on statistics on the number of animals used for experimental and other scientific purposes, 115 million lab animals were used in 1 year. So there will be even much larger number if the statistics were conducted all around the globe. So what is the reason that people protest that use animal for scientific research? I think this is even more easy to understand, because the experiments on animals, especially in the field of biomedical and behavioral research, always results in cruelty. For instance, in the research of psychology, in order to study the relationship between the parents' generation and the children's generation, those animal individuals is very likely to be isolated, probably in the whole life of those two groups. Or in the biomedical research, the disease and new medicines are used to be tested on these animals, which not only cause their death, but it always causes inflammation, blindness, and agony. So this is actually very cruel to the animals. So it's actually very easy to understand that some people who love the animals really protest this kind of behavior. So those people who protest the use of animals for experiments actually can be divided into several main categories, just according to their ideas. According to the Guide for the Care and Use of Laboratory Animals that's published by National Institute of Health in 1985, there were 3 ideas have been described that people want to protect these animals. So the first idea is called the animal rights. The second idea is called the anti-vivisectionists, and the third idea is called the animal welfare. So those 3 ideas actually have, though their purpose is to protect the animals, but their ideas are really different. So if we can see the second visual aids I put in here, you can see that a mouse is holding I think probably the probe, doing the experiments on the on human beings. So this is actually and there's a word said, how would you feel if they did it to you? Stop animal testing. So this is actually the idea belongs to the animal rights. So animal rights believe that animals have the same rights as human and should not be exploited as by human beings. So the idea of animal rights it's not only required that we do not use animal for lab research, but also we do not eat meat, we do not use fur, wool, and any byproducts from the animals. And the second idea is called the anti-vivisectionists. The anti-vivisectionists especially oppose the use of animals in medical research, not only because they believe this kind of research is cruel, but also because they believe it's bad science. They think that the research should be conducted on humans if the research is only benefits human being, or the scientists need to find alternatives to conduct experiments instead of trying those new medicines on animals. And the animal welfare proponents do not oppose all use of animals in lab. They oppose inhumane and unnecessary use of animals, and they are always fight to eliminate sufferings and pains of animals. So for the animal rights idea, there actually nothing wrong to be a pure vegetarian. However, it's actually unrealistic for society nowadays that forbidden the using of the wool, fur, drinking the milk, and other byproducts. It could take some time in order for people to find all these alternatives, but it's not very likely for the society to suddenly apply these kind of rules. So for the anti-vivisectionists, which claims that the experiments are bad science, which is not actually true, because all the scientific experiments have errors, and this is another reason that they are considered as bad science. Many scientific research based on animal experiments have gained promising progress. For instance, the invention of penicillin and other antibiotics were actually experiments that conducted on monkeys. So the idea of animal welfare that do not oppose all the use of animals in the labs, but aiming at reduction on the using of animal numbers in the lab and eliminate the sufferings of animals is a widely accepted idea. Not only because it is can be achieved in a relatively short period, but it's because it's a much less radical idea. So how can we lessen the pains and the sufferings of the animals? Well, there's several ideas. One is that using the alternatives such as synthetic skins or synthetic materials for the medicine testing instead of using the animals. Also, by reducing the amounts of the animals in the labs. That means doing several tests on one single animal individual, which may also sound very cruel, but can reduce the total amount of animal use in labs. And there have been several rules that have been announced in some countries to restrict the use of of animals in lab research. For example, in UK, it has maintained the relative same amount of animals in the labs for the past 20 years, and there has been a slight decrease in the past 5 years. So the answer of this question, that should we use animal in labs, is still hard to answer, because animals in the labs have contributed enormous for human scientific research, and the benefits arising from this research not only benefits human beings ourselves, but also benefits the animals themselves. So the reduction of animals in the lab and the cruelty of experiments is just the first step in protecting the animals. There will be several other steps that we can do to reduce the sufferings of these animals, but it cannot be achieved instantaneously. I believe with the development of the technology and people's understanding to the ethics, the conflicts can be finally solved. Thank you.